Once again, Salam Barhama. I hope everyone is doing well. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties, and I'm just waiting for Nilofar John to join us. Until she joins us, as you guys all know, my name is Nuria Kamran. I am the co-founder of Children Without Borders, a non-profit organization based from Toronto, Canada. And today we have with us Nilofar John Ahmadi from NK Lawyers to give you guys all more information about the immigration process, as well as any questions you guys may have in terms of sponsorship or the refugee program that the Canadian government has announced. I am waiting for Nilofar John to join us. Until she does join us, just to give you guys a quick background about Nilofar John, she is an immigration lawyer based from Toronto, Canada. There we go. Nilofar John to the live. Nilofar John, I send you the request. Please accept that. Salam.
Hello. Salam. Nuria Jan, چطور هستین؟ خوب هستین؟
Tashakar. First of all, Nilofar John, thank you so much I know your schedule has been very hectic and swamped, but thank you for taking the time and coming live with us to give more information to all of the followers and Afghans across Canada about the immigration process and refugee program. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much for having me. I know that you guys have been so busy yourself. Just talking to you yesterday, it was overwhelming, I know. But, you know, this is a time where we can say that we were there too, and helping people who are most at need. I'm not talking about, it's people from our country. So we're responsible to help them. I'm talking about humanity and just as humans, you know, being there for each other for such an unprecedented time.
Very well said, Nilofar John. You're absolutely right. This is a time for all of us to get together and be there emotionally, financially. This is the time that a lot of us need that emotional support to be there for each other. So, we'll get started with our live. I know we're limited on time. So as I was telling everyone, Nilofar John, she is an immigration lawyer based from Toronto, Canada. She's the founder of NK Lawyers and also a member of the Canadian Afghan Lawyers Association. Nilofar John, why don't you briefly tell us about yourself and your practice?
So I'm an immigration refugee lawyer based in Toronto, Ontario. I've been running my own practice about 5 years now. I've been interested in refugee law for a long period of time. My focus is mainly refugee law. I do other immigration applications as well, but mainly my practice is heavily concentrated in refugee law.
Okay, perfect. The one question that I'm sure everyone is asking about is, what are exactly the refugee program that have been announced by the government of Canada for the Afghans?
So people are, firstly, just off the bat, you know, not saying the proper wordings of what exactly is announced and what is not announced. So the government of Canada did announce in August 2021 that there will be special programs for refugees who are seeking to leave Afghanistan due to the fear of their lives. So refugee law is very limited to people who actually do fear for their lives, but in this context, it's a human rights crisis. And so a lot of people fit the profile. I mean, just being a woman itself is like having a profile from my perspective. But the government of Canada has set limitations on who qualifies and who doesn't. Some of them are clear, some of them are not so clear. We're still waiting for more announcements. So there's been two programs that have been, you know, one is a prospective one, and one is already one where their people have arrived in Canada. So the first one is the government-assisted immigration route, and the other one is humanitarian route for the Afghans. So the government-assisted one is very clear from a legal perspective and who's included and who's not, but the second one the Humanitarian, there's still announcements being made, and that's why there's a mass hysteria among our, Afghan community and people who are willing to help Afghans as well, because there's not much clarity in the second pathway. The first pathway includes people who work with the Canadian government. The Canadian government includes, the Canadian embassy. It could be someone who was just a translator for the Canadian government in other aspects, like, representatives going there and needing an interpreter with them, or, chefs working in the Embassy of Canada. I've had clients who worked as clerks in the Embassy of Canada, and they were able to get their invitation for that specific program, and they also got most of their family inside of Canada. There are people who still apply even though they don't qualify. I mean, there's probably a period of time they probably did something for the government of Canada, but it's up to the discretion of the officer who's looking at your file to see how significant that work was to the Canadian government to qualify you. So there's specific emails, a specific email given for that application that is provided in the IRCC site. You provide an email to them, you give them all the details that you need to do. There's instructions on what details are required. Once you send that email, I have heard from clients and colleagues what the second step is. The second step is usually, it comes from the IRCC, and the IRCC emails you from a specific email, which I'm not willing to share here because I don't want people to bog down, the applications that do qualify for certain people, and bog that email down, because it's only when you get the first stage, invitation that you can actually see that email and be able to email that specific office. Once you get that email, they tell you what documents they require, mainly their forms, and also documentation evidence to prove that you were in that position or your family member was in that position. So these are for people who are outside of Canada, whose families qualify, right? So they were, for example, an Afghan who worked in the Embassy of Canada, but their family is in Afghanistan, so they can apply for that, for the family. Right? Okay. But there's also people who are inside of Canada who work for the Canadian government in some shape or form, and they could apply for themselves and their families. Okay?
So there's
the second program, which is the Humanitarian program, not yet fully announced. There are subgroups that qualify for this program, but what needs to be done, the first requirement is that there are two groups for that as well. One is that you could be outside of Canada to a safe third country, where you do not and cannot get, de facto rights there. So, for example, you cannot become a permanent resident like somewhere like, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, places like that. But you need to ensure that they have some sort of facility that would allow you to register yourself as a refugee there. And what these are they're called organizations that allow you to seek refuge there. So usually it's the UNHCR, which is United Nations Commission for High Commissions for Rights. So you go there and you register yourself as a refugee. Once you have a status determination document, then people here, either a group of 5 or sponsorship agreement holders, can apply to bring you in. Sometimes they're government-assisted groups, which are not clearly announced in the government website. If you were to go to the IRCC website, I think the government's still working on that. And then you can be sponsored from the third country once you have the UNHCR document. Now, we are advocating in some groups that I am, and other people whose families are here, to waive the UNHCR document. But I have heard news when I was watching Minister Mendocino speaking the other day. He stated, someone in the ministry stated that, don't remember his name, but he stated that you can actually go to the Canadian consulate and also tell them that, this is my situation, this is my profile. Please allow me to seek refuge here. And then in Canada, we can see if there could be a method to sponsor them here. So this is the first time I'm hearing that. I heard this on the weekend on Sunday. It has not been announced in the IRCC site, but it has been spoken of by the Ministry of the Government of Canada. So I'm waiting still for that announcement, but I want all Afghans and all people who are trying to help Afghans that the second program is not as clear as we want it to be at the moment. Okay, the second program is for certain profiles, and what I would encourage most people to do, and if they have family outside of Afghanistan, try to see which UNHCRs are open currently, because there are countries where there were UNHCRs, but there aren't anymore, to go to those places and try to register themselves as soon as possible. Okay, and that is the one thing that you can advise all your family members, and we can advise legally to people who are trying to seek any way of trying to go to a place where they could have some sort of potential to arrive to a country like Canada. I know there's different policies for the United States and all those countries, but mainly we're just focusing on Canada here today. But that is, those are the two pathways currently. We're still waiting for the second pathway to be broadened and new announcements made so that we can advise better our clients and other people who are inquiring.
Okay, so just to, I'm just that in. As far as I understood it, there are two programs. There's a refugee program, and then there's also, you can sponsor family and friends through based on humanitarian basis. And the refugee, it is for people that are either in Afghanistan، در خود افغانستان هستن و جانشان در خطر است، و یا کسایی هستن که خارج از افغانستان در کانادا هستن اما فامیلایشان فعلا هم در افغانستان هستن و جانشان در خطر است. اونا از طریق refugee program میتونن. درست نیلوفر جان؟
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And the second category is humanitarian, and و همچنان دو بخش داره که یک بخشش میشه که مردم از خارج از افغانستان براین در مملکت‌های مثلا ازبکستان، تاجیکستان، در جایا باشن و از اونجا فامیلاشون میتونن که سپانسرشون بکنن، خصوصا گروپ‌های 5 نفری. درست است؟
Yes, and I want to emphasize that the group of 5, it doesn't have to be family members, it doesn't have to be friends, it could be a Canadian who's just wanting to help, some refugees. So there are people who are enlisting themselves as such, and they want to help. I mean, they don't have any family left in Afghanistan, or they're not even Afghan themselves. But if, there are going to be, by IRCC, even IRCC has announced that if you want to help an Afghan, there's all the resources that you can outreach to IRCC and probably enlist your name there and see if you can help them in any way, shape, or form in that sense too.
Perfect. Somebody asked that, do they all have to be from the same province?
So so right now, if you were to be doing group of 5, for example, you have to be from the same area. So I would say, for example, you have to be from this, if you are living in Toronto, you have to make sure everybody lives in the GTA, for example, right? But in regards to this situation, what's going on, I mean, a lot of people are advocating for all these limitations and all these restrictions to be waived for this type of crisis. So we're waiting to see if the government of Canada will actually waive these, requirements. But right now, it is definitely, the law, as per the group of 5 applications, that they should be from the same area. So graphically, if we were to see, like I said, GTA, if you're living in London, Ontario, most people should be from that area as well, maybe 20 minutes apart from each other by drive or something like that.
Okay, and for group of 5, income they will still look at everyone's income, right? There's still
unfortunately, that has also not been announced. We have been trying to advocate for that as well, to, during COVID-19, when COVID-19 took place in 2020, there was the lowering of income requirements for sponsorships for parents. So we're hoping that for this as well, something like that happens, because these refugees, they're okay with, living in one room. They're okay with having certain limited amount of, necessities, because they're coming from a place where they don't have any of that at the moment. And they're fearing for their lives, right? So we're trying to see if the government of Canada will lower those income requirements for these types of applications.
Okay, and I'll just repeat that in Farsi again because we do have some Farsi speaking followers. کسایی که در فارسی میخواین بشنون، قسمی که نیلوفر جان گفتن که وقتی که میگریشن خصوصا در humanitarian basis میباشه و در ممالک مثلا ازبکستان، تاجیکستان یا در جایا میباشن و گروپ 5 نفری باید یک اونا رو اسپانسر کنه. در سال قبلی به خاطر کووید گورنمنت کانادا اینکم ریکوایرمنتشان کم کرده بود و فعلا هم هنوز دقیق 100% نیست که هنوز هم گورنمنت کانادا می ریکوایرمنت خود میتونه کم بکنه. یعنی بعد وقتی که گروپ 5 نفری می باشه، دولت کانادا هنوز هم اینکم هر 5 گروپ میبینه. based on that immigration applicationشان میبینن. درست است؟ Okay, Nilofar John, the next question, what about the refugees that are already in Canada? What about them? What's the process for them?
So the refugees that are who have already made a claim in Canada, the IRB, usually that's where it goes, their applications. So this is not the pathway for the humanitarian crisis. These are refugees who have come to Canada and made a claim inside of Canada. And these people have been waiting for their, either hearings, their IRCC documents, their application to move towards some sort of, final decision. So the IRB, which is the Immigration Refugee Board, has made an announcement to give these applications to prioritize them and try to give them a hearing as soon as possible, either paper-based decisions so that these people, if they have family members, they can take them out as soon as possible. So what happens with these refugee files is that they either are accepted as refugees or they're not accepted as refugees. But if they are accepted as refugees, then they'll have to put a PR application for the families that are stuck in Afghanistan. And the government of Canada has also made an announcement that they will try to prioritize the PR applications for people who are stuck in Afghanistan. So for example, even aside from refugees, if we were to see, a spouse trying to sponsor their spouse who's in Afghanistan, they're married and they haven't put an application yet, or they will put an application soon. The government of Canada has stated that they will prioritize these applications. However, there's no announcements or clarity as to how they will do it. Is there a form? Is there a procedure? Is there an email? Is there something like that we can follow up on? It's just an announcement that's been made, but we do not know how we can trigger those applications for them.
So today when I came to the office, there's an IRCC immigration office in our building, and there was a huge lineup of Afghans just trying to get more information about the refugee program, the 20,000 applications that Canada has agreed to, or the people that Canada has agreed to bring over. And so just, there was a huge lineup given COVID, and now the number of cases are going up. Is it safe for people? Are they getting more information when they come in person, or is it the same information that's they can obtain all that information through IRCC's website?
So are you saying what can they do to get help? Those people that have come in? Yeah. So there's definitely information in the IRCC website. If you were to go and the IRCC website, they have made a special forum for how Canada can help. And when you go there, then there's an email given as to, people who are helping with the refugee resettlement. There is an email, it's called Afghan Air Settlement at ccislive.ca. You could definitely email them, and then under that there is a link for local providers. So when you go there, you try to search, people who are around your area and communities that are already enlisted there that can help you. help these
Okay.
people. And then on top of that, my organization as well, Kala, which I'm a part of, they have also, tried to make a list of people who can either offer, legal services. There's people who can offer shelter. There's organizations that they can inquire with that can help them with, trying to find clothing. Because as the situation in Afghanistan is so bad that people are just leaving everything they have. And
Yeah.
I don't think there will be anyone to send them all their, belongings, or they will even get to them ever. So it's just like they're traveling with the clothes off their backs.
Yep. I actually run into I would say at least 30 Afghans that have just arrived and they were here to process their paperwork. And they told me, they said they only came with one bag. They have no clothes,
Mhm.
nothing on them. And actually speaking with our team members in Afghanistan, one of our team member was stuck at the airport for 4 days. And that takes me to my next question.
Mhm.
And so it was in one of our viewers asked as well, is it
Mhm.
safe for people to be traveling to the airport in Kabul right now?
So this is one of the other grand hysteria that has happened in Kabul, which is, like it is legitimate, right? It is legitimate, and people are really afraid, but there are people there without any documentations just waiting around, trying to get inside of a airline to get out of Kabul, Afghanistan. But these are people most likely without documents. So if you don't have documents, if you do not have an email from IRCC directly, I mean, there are clients who are sharing emails with us, but I don't want to ever give those emails out because those emails will get bombarded with, inquiries that shouldn't be asked. They're only sent from those emails to certain people. They're given certain documents. They either print those documents or they have them on their phones or something like that. I know that there are people that are very afraid of saving them on their phones. So no matter what, but they have to have that document with them. I have heard of, passport waivers. I have heard of biometric waivers. These are people that they're trying to get out of the country to any third country. So I'm hearing a lot about Doha. I'm hearing a lot about Germany. And once they get there, then they get their biometrics done. They're getting their passports processed or any other, requirements before entering Canada. So there's a lot of clients of mine, they're not necessarily my clients, but inquiries that I'm getting. Uh, People are going from Doha and then they're going to Germany. Now they're confused. What's going on? Now what do we do? But uh, we are trying to look into that to see, what is the cases, how people are being dealt with there. Um, from one of our other clients, we've heard that they are getting invitations from people who are citizens in the United States. This is how it's happening in the United States, and that person is promising to take care of them for a year, and then once they come here, the procedure and everything will be done. But other people, what's going on in Canada is that once they have those documentation, that's when they should go to Kabul airport. They should not go otherwise because there are many checkpoints that they have to go through, and they most likely will not be able to go through all the checkpoints. So there's really no point in you just showing up there. I know that Nuria Jan, you yourself heard that people are there with their electricity bill.
Yes.
Um, and it's just that it's just delaying the process for people who actually have the correct documentations, following the procedures correctly to get out of there. Instead of helping the situation, it's delaying it more. So if you don't have the documents, it's recommended that you should not show up, in the airport.
Okay. And this is my second last question, and then we'll take some questions from the comment box. What about the Afghan Canadians that have been stranded in Afghanistan? I know a few of our followers, after they saw the poster, they reached out to us. Their parents or, their parents or family members are stuck inside Afghanistan, and they are Canadian citizens. Is there any process for them, or what can they do?
So in the CCP, I believe it was a recording of the ministers' meetings. meeting yesterday. I don't know if you saw it yourself, Nurjan, but they were talking about how are they helping these people get out of Afghanistan. The government of Canada currently, as I know it, they don't have, representatives on the ground trying to get people, but there are lingering words that there are probably some people, Canadians, who are trying to find, these other Canadians who need to get out, escort them out, and then try to get in the plane. But in the meeting yesterday, the CCP recording yesterday with Minister Mendocino, he was stating that it's not safe right now to have these troops go there and try to help these people out of there and escort them. So they're just sending them instructions. You have to come to this place, sit down under this place, and then just wait there, and then we'll come and get you. So they're pointing out on those directions on how to get them. I know it's a very difficult situation because unfortunately a lot of Canadians are stuck there. I have a couple of clients myself that are stuck there. But they're trying to see what is the best way to get them out of there. And the instructions that are following are through email. Some people are scared of using their email because I have heard that, we're going door to door, trying to see if anyone is working with Canadians or trying to get out of the country. So it is a scary situation, but they're not going to, Mr. Mendocino also stated that he's not going to, reveal all of the secrets of what Canada is doing because it's for the safety of people. But this is what's going on with some of my clients, and this is some of the read-ups I've been doing on online as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Nilofar John. So we do have a few questions. We actually have a lot, but we'll, we're very tight on time. But the first question is, F. Azimi, thank you for this question and answer. I have a bunch of questions. Can someone who has worked for the U.S. military be brought here on a refugee case? By here, they mean Canada.
So in regards to this person, right, and under the first pathway program, he would not qualify because it's not directly linked to the Canadian government. So the first email I wouldn't send, right? But then the second pathway, there is a way to work around it, right? So what I would do, I would recommend to that person is that if he's not inside of Kabul, he should go to a third country where there is either a Canadian consulate or there is, so for example, in Iran, there's no Canadian consulate, right? There's no UNHCR. I wouldn't go to Iran. There's people who have gone to Iran right now, but there's none of that over there. I would try to see if there's a way for me to go to UNHCR that is open and try to register that person there, and then the group of 5 can try to see if they can sponsor them to inside of Canada or any organization that they might announce soon enough.
There's another question. A lot of people are scared of signing up as a sponsor unless they personally know the person, as they're scared about the refugees coming here and perhaps getting into trouble with the law. Is there anything they do that can heavily impact the sponsorship later on?
So in terms of committing income requirements, it is your income. Your income in the sense that if they were to come here right now, this is the announcement, it might change, right? It might change and it might be not as limited for this Afghan crisis that's happening, kind of like the Syrian crisis where they were waiving a lot of things and people were landing in Canada within 100 days, right? So I'm seeing a lot of comparison with that. There hasn't been an official announcement whether it will be like the Syrian way of doing things, but I feel that it will most likely be guided in that sense. But in this situation at the moment, yes, people are supposed to not go on welfare when they come to Canada for 1 year when you're sponsored them for group of 5. So if they do go on welfare, then one day, if you're doing your taxes, or, tax catches up with you doing a business or something like that, your credit will be assessed and the government of Canada might send you an assessment and state that you are in default you owe this much money because the person you sponsored took welfare from this period to this period, and this is the amount you owe. Okay, that could catch up to you, and you have to probably pay that back. So it is something that, like that is limiting people in enrolling in these programs. But I'm hopeful that, that those limitations will be decreased, and the time limitations of you being responsible for that will be decreased. Another thing I wanted to mention is that these people will go through a security check. Okay, so God forbid they are something, something criminal, or they've been a part of an organization or something like that. I'm hoping that the government of Canada will detect that. And if that does happen, then their procedure will fall through, security checks, and they might be inadmissible to Canada anyways.
Okay, perfect. So, sorry, there was another question. What sponsorship options are available for Afghan Canadians in Canada to sponsor our relatives stuck in Afghanistan? These relatives do not fall under Canada's special programs.
So these relatives are in Afghanistan?
Yes.
And
they don't fall under refugee.
None of these pathways?
They were not specific, but I guess humanitarian would apply to them.
So what's going on is that what they're suggesting, the government of Canada, is that if you do fall under one of these profiles, so these profiles, they're women activists, right? They're minorities. Like a couple of days ago, Hazaras weren't included, for example, but when yesterday the talk was with the ministers, there was the word Hazaras mentioned there, Shia Hazaras. And then categories like, being a Sikh or Ismaili. There's other categories of being journalists, helping Canadian journalists. And those are very obvious, right? So if you yourself in Canada have a profile that you think your family might be a risk for your profile, then they can definitely, the only thing they can do is go to a third country, register themselves in UNHCR, and trying to sponsor them. Now, I want to also emphasize that there is a blur line with the humanitarian applications, because we're emphasizing that you need to go to a third country, but I saw that there's a subgroup where it states that, if you have the profile in Canada and you're sponsoring a relative, then that person can be inside of Canada and you can sponsor them from there as well. It hasn't been clear. I've just seen the wording there. So I'm waiting for the announcement or whenever it comes out, to clarify that, to see that, for example, if I'm a teacher in Afghanistan teaching women, right? I was a teacher because I have a client who ran her own business in Afghanistan, and she was teaching women how to sew. And then she was going around in different countries and teaching and showing her, like clothes to everybody, women's clothes, colorful clothes. And it was just like an activist thing she was doing. She was encouraging all these village women to have these clothes in their houses and be able to have their own business. So she's in Canada right now. She's fearing for her family's life in Afghanistan. And so I'm trying to see that if she gets her PR, she'll be able to include them in her application, because they're going to be stuck in Afghanistan. They're saying that there's no way out for them because they don't have the means. They don't have the financial means to get out of there at the moment. And they're just stuck there at the moment. So.
Okay. And this could be our last question. My sister worked with one of American organizations, but she cannot take recommendation letter from her manager. Can she qualify for this program?
So, can you repeat that? Sorry.
My sister worked with one of American organizations, but she can't take recommendation letter from her manager. Can she still qualify for this program?
So like I said, for the first program, it has to be Canadian, okay? So it has to be Canadian. So what's happening if you work with the Canadian government asks you for documents of working with the Canadian government. But if you see the policy, it says that we can check whether you work with them, right? So for the Canadian government, if you actually work with them and you have no documentations, because I know clients families who are in Afghanistan, they're burning documents because they're afraid that the Taliban might come and see those documents and try to persecute them. But the government of Canada is saying that we can check, if you worked in that period of time, because they have all the people here who can confirm, yes, this person used to work with me, this person, right? So if you were to apply for the United States, then the United States can also do the same, hopefully, and check with those, representatives and be like, okay, did this person actually work with you? They're saying they have no documents because it was burned, because they can't get it, they're afraid. Did they actually work with you if they're going to go that extra mile? Because Canada, I believe they are, because I see in one sentence that there is a statement like that made for Canada. However, if they want to come to Canada, then just like everybody else, they have to, go to the third country, register themselves, and then you'll be able to sponsor them through the Group of Five, because they didn't work for the Canadian government, they work for the Americans, which is a profile on what should be a profile. It's not clear whether it is a profile under the humanitarian crisis, but it should be a profile, hopefully, for people like him.
Okay, perfect. And also, we're getting a lot of questions, but they're mostly repetitive. And this live will be posted on our page, and it will be shared on the Canada Afghan Lawyers Association's page as well. So you can watch it later. And yes, we will be posting the live. And so we can wrap up our live. Thank you so much once again, Nilofar John. And
Thank you.
also, lastly, I just wanted to thank everybody, all of our followers, Afghans, non-Afghans that have contributed and donated to our GoFundMe campaign. In almost 7 or 8 days, we were able to raise over $287,000. And this money, if you guys are following CWB page or the GoFundMe, if you have donated to the GoFundMe, you do get an update through the GoFundMe page. We have been distributing. We're one of the very few organizations that still have ground personnel in Afghanistan, and we are still delivering help. Every single day, our members are working more than 10 to 12 hours a day to make sure that we deliver your donation, your sadaqah to the families that are truly in need of your donation. So Afghanistan is in crisis, and this is the time for all of us to get together and deliver monetary assistance or emotional. We need to be there for each other. And if anybody needs, if anybody has any questions about the campaign, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you, Nilofar John. We'll be heading over to Facebook for the live session. And thank you for everyone that stayed with us. So, Khudafis.
Thank you, Nirajan. Thank you.
No problem.